Hello and welcome to, well, a video by me. So, for once, I'm not doing a stream. This time I'm actually making a video for you. So, I've been engaged on chats and Discord channels, all sorts of places. And one of the places that I got into a chat with people about certain FS19 mods was at the chat on Arthur Chapman's channel, and also his wife Fleetfoot Entertainment. And it was not sort of a discussion between them and me, but sort of the whole channel, or parts of the whole channel. So one of the comments that I heard was that people tend to not use a mod like CoursePlay because they say it's difficult to set up and it has its issues. And given that it's still a beta, of course it still have its issues. But let me start with just sort of introducing these mods in itself. I think that's a good place to start. So in FS17, where I started, I at some point stumbled upon two mods that, in my opinion, made my life a whole lot easier. Those mods were called the GPS mod at that point, and also CoursePlay 5. So, meanwhile, between FS17 and FS19, the creator of the GPS mod had got another job. He got hired by the people behind Cattle and Crops, and of course it goes without saying that you can't both work on a competitor's game or motor or whatever you want to call it, and then also at the same time make mods for that competitor or one of them. So it was very clear, unfortunately, that the GPS mod, which I really liked, wouldn't be transferred over to FS19. Fortunately, there was another guy, and I think he's called Whopper or Steinwop or something like that. But I want to send my shout out and regards to him. He took it upon him to remake the GPS mod in a sort of new face, and I want to be careful what I say, because it's not like he has taken the code and the face of the GPS mod and then just transferred to FS19. He has probably inspired more or less by the GPS mod from FS17, created his own whole new work, and that GPS mod has differences that you don't see usually, that you didn't see in GPS mod. The other mod that I used a lot and has been or are being transferred directly, more or less, from FS17 to FS19 is the mod called CoursePlay. And I want to introduce and show people in this video here exactly how easy it is to use these two mods, and also, more importantly perhaps, what they can be used for. So let's get started. I originally wanted to drive this here, but I think we're going to go over and look at the Big Bot over here and see if he has the GPS mod installed. I think that he has, but I'm not sure. Yes, he has. But let me oh, sorry, that was the light. Just uncouple this. And let's drive down to the shop anyway. Because one of the differences between the GPS mod, one of the big differences between the GPS mod and the guide and steering mod, is that in the GPS mod you should just simply install the mod and then you were going. There's nothing else. then you could use it and it could control the tractors and all that. The guidance steering mod, however, and let me show you that, because I actually find that to be quite a brilliant idea. So let's stop here. Hope I can reach it. Let me see. No. Yeah. So let's see if I can squeeze it in here. I'm sorry, this is, as you probably know if you've seen one of my videos about seasons or animals or anything like that. This is my test farm, so things aren't exactly spread out as I would normally do on a farm. Let's try now. Yes, now we can see it. Big Bot 747. And when you install the guidance steering mod and you enabled it in your map, then whenever you want to buy a new vehicle, let me just do that. Let's just do it. So what should you get? The lesser bot? Yeah, let's do that. We can find it. There are of course also the big Sirion. But let's get the lesser bot here. So we can choose, of course, as you know, between wide tires, double tires and all that. But at some point, let me just go back and take the class here because it should have some more options. Yes, you have real brand, wheel setup. And then you have this here, global positioning system. Now, one of the things is that for most of the tractors, you won't see a visual difference. But if you take one of the John Deere tractors, notice that that little yellow thingy up here, the GPS is missing. But if I enable the GPS, global positioning system, it comes here. But let's go with the lesser bot anyway. Or the big bot 450. Of which there are many models. So let's take it. Wide tires, twin tires. Yeah. And we're going to enable global positioning system. Yes, I will. Alright. So let's go get him. Visit shop. I have some mixed things standing around here from the previous video that I haven't cleaned up yet. So let's take lesser big bot for a spin. So as you can see, what has changed now is that down in the corner you can see 3 small icons. One icon, it's the one in the middle, simply denotes whether guidance steering is enabled or not. So let me just show you. If I press Alt-C, then you can see I get a line that gives me the direction the tractor is going. And if I look at it from a slanted point of view, I can still get a pretty good idea on where the tractor is driving. So right about there, it should be driving in the middle on the lines. Let's change the camera view. And it roughly was. So that's one of the direct advantages of the guidance steering mod, is that when you want to align a trailer, especially when you're backing up a trailer, you can see where the trailer tends to go from these lines here. I can show you that in the later part of this video. But let me first start by showing you how you use the guidance steering mod and also what its intended use is. So I will get down to the farm and then I'll see you there. So now we are back at the farm. Let me just get the lesser part here backed into place and get that tractor there out of the way. There we go. And let's get over to him. Alright. So, wrong way. Let's fold it out. Alright, so in order to use guidance steering, there are some steps that you need to perform. And let me show you what those are. First of all, you should always drive with your equipment folded out like this. Then you align yourself on the field. And I have assigned some keys on my keyboard, on my steering wheel, in order to get these tasks done, because they are tasks that you will probably do a lot of time. But if you press Alt-E once and then twice, then you'll get a little arrow like this, and then you'll press it again, and now you're almost set. Then you can press Alt-X to enable guidance steering, and when you have your equipment aligned completely like you want it, then you can press Alt-R in order to auto-align the width to the equipment that you have. Be mindful that if you use several the guidance steering can possibly get a little confused. Then you use Alt page up or page down to move the alignment around. You want to align it so you just slightly overlap the field edge to get all the field. And then you will, and I'm going to use the keys, the commands on my on my steering wheel. Then I will disable it. You can continue if you want, that's not a problem. So I'll go back. Turn around. And lower my equipment. Now, yeah, that's right. Let's just get this sorted out while we wait for it to save. There we were. So let's see, where is it exactly that I'm trying to? It's here. Let's buy 66. Yes. 67. Yes. And 75. Yes. There we go. Now I do own it. Yes, I have access to that land. Alright, so there are two ways that you can use guidance steering, in my opinion. The way it's meant to be, and the way that I actually find to be pretty okay. So let's start with the one that I find to be pretty okay. As you can see, when you look around, you have that white line, which shows you the middle, where the middle of the tractor should be positioned. Essentially where the hinge is, or whatever you want to call it. And then you have these two yellow lines defining the edge of your equipment. But as you can see, you don't have any line anymore that define where the tractor is heading. And I actually wrote to the developer and asked him whether he could add sort of two red lines that would sort of indicate the middle of the tractor, so you could sort of from the outside align the tractor manually with the the white line on your field. But unfortunately, he thought that it would be out of the scope of this, or sort of ruin the idea behind guidance steering. But one thing you can do is that you can sort of align the tractor so the middle of your hood, if your hood of course is in the middle, is also aligned with the white line. And then you'll basically get the same effect as when if you had guidance steering enabled. But if you enable guidance steering like I do now, you can let go of the steering wheel, you can go out and you can look at the tractor working. And that's simply how guidance steering works. And furthermore, of course, you can enable the autopilot. And then you can just sit back, relax, and watch the tractor do all the work. Now, of course, there are some things that you need to be mindful of. Guidance steering will make sure that the tractor stays on track. Guidance steering will also detect headlands, essentially edges of the field, and stop the tractor. But guidance steering will not turn the tractor or do anything other than steer straight out according to that line. And so while you can sit back and enjoy the view and relax a little bit, you do still need to be aware of your surroundings and aware of your field, because otherwise it will go horribly wrong for you. So that's it. That's basically how you use guidance steering. And you can do that without recalling one single menu. But of course there is a menu. And let me show you when we have finished that little part here. There you could see the tractor automatically disengaged the autopilot, and so I couldn't go any further. One thing that guidance steering, in my opinion, do lack, that I would very much like to see implemented, is an easy way to rotate your direction 90 degrees. And this would be a very good moment for me to introduce that menu. So by pressing not Alt but Control S, you'll get this menu here. Usually when you use the mod for the first time, you would have show lines off, and everything, of course, guidance steering will be off, but everything else would be as you'd see it here. I just want to show that, but you can turn off the lines, and then you don't see them. I honestly don't like that. I want to see the lines, but you can take them off. Here you can see the width have been set to 7.8 meters. Actually, I think it's an 8 meter, but nevertheless. And you can see that if there is an offset, for example, with plows, it will also be present here. Usually, when you do what I did, you align the tractor by using guidance steering. It should get fairly close, but sometimes it misses a little bit. In here you can see you have the different line strategies. For now there's only one, and there's A plus heading and A plus B. So A plus heading is a heading, of course. So essentially you can A plus B is 1 point like I pressed, and then 1 point again. So essentially you can set any direction you want. Here you can rotate it 90 degrees. And so essentially when you and you can give it you can save it and give it names and all that. These are relatively self-explanatory. Add one, write one, delete one, rotate 90 degrees. So in order to rotate, I'm not sure whether he has put in a key command. I haven't checked that yet. But as far as I know, the only way to rotate your direction is to go in here and press that button here. I'm not going to do that because I want to also show you how we can use A plus heading. So let's do that. So just like before, we set a point, and then you can set a cardinal degree. I want to set it like this, and then it's all set. But for instance, I could set a point and then say I want to go to 70. then it will be in this direction here. I could, let me see, 45. See? Then we have an angle like this. So essentially you can set this point here any way you want. Whether A plus B or A plus heading is the best? Well, definitely if you want to get going in a hurry, you can use A plus heading because you don't need to drive. You can define it just where you're standing. You don't need to do anything else. Let's go back. And let's finish this line here. Get it plowed. Now one thing I do often do is that I make headland rows. Even if I'm doing all of this myself, I make headland rows because it gives me a little bit more space to work with. I don't need to be so concerned. And I would say on fields where you don't have that much room to play around with at the edges, essentially just like this field here, because you almost, if there's a tree in the way, you can't fit the entire tractor plus this cultiplow at the same place. But then by doing a couple of headland rows, you can actually get room to maneuver around with. Well, basically, this is all there is to say about guidance steering. You can use it manually, just like I showed you, but the intended use is that you activate guidance steering so that the tractor will steer itself, and then you should just be sitting there, be waiting to correct it if it does anything wrong or anything like that. There is, of course, one little caveat, and that is that guidance steering, as good as it may be, isn't exactly very good at handling angles or slanted routes, because if you have a field that's not completely square, even if it's rectangular or oddly shaped, but if it's not square, then you'll have to redo your calculations a lot of time, or your initializations, because as you can see, for every little turn there was, I would essentially have to change the angle. So let's and now we want to go to 0. No, we want to go 90. Yeah, and then again we can fix the lines and then just go. So it will certainly seem that using the A plus heading is definitely a lot faster than A plus B, because using A plus heading you don't need to drive in order to set that last point. But using A plus B might give you, it might be more intuitive to use that, because you don't actually need to know your angular direction, you can simply just drive it. So it's basically two ways to accomplish the same thing. So one other thing that I think you should be able to do is that you can just back up the tractor just about where you think you want your direction to be, and then you can change it. Now I would probably turn the tractor because it gives you a little bit better feel with how you're going to align it, but essentially you can do just that. And then you should be good to go. I think we're going to get that a little better aligned, that cultiplow. There we go. Now, of course, if you're that kind of person, you can also do the headland rows because of realism. That's probably the most realistic thing, is that farmers tend to do headland rows in order to get their fields, in order to have room to maneuver around on. And at this point you could so choose to make another set of headland rows, I would probably do that to just give me that room to maneuver. But essentially, it is simply just aligning the... Let me just show you. Aligning the course. So let's do that. Let's say it's 90 degrees. Yes, and let's align it like that. And then you would simply just go back and forth and plow just the way you normally would do. Let me just show you a couple of rows. Now, be aware that you have that little counter down there. It says 0 right now. That's because I initialized guidance steering right here. And also because, well, it says 0 because I initialized it right here. But depending on the direction it thinks we're going, and I can't say that in advance, it will either set 1 and 2 and 3 as we go down the rows, or it would say -1, -2, -3. But both numbers essentially mean the same thing. So let me just meet you up at the end of the field, and let's turn around and let me show you. And hopefully you can see now that we actually have a little more room to play with here. There. Then you would go back. You would turn around and get enough room to turn around. And as you can see, I would probably have done another headland row. And then you align like this. And because of the trees, I just did it there. You lower your equipment. And you go. And as you can see, it says -1. And that is simply depending on what direction guidance steering is seeing as the positive and the minus and negative direction. But you can use the numbers for the same thing, that you can see where you are. So if you want to go sort of one row at a time, you will have to go to 0, from 0 to 1 to 2 and so on, or -1, -2, that way. If you're going from end to end, then you have to remember both numbers, but it can help you to know in advance where you sort of are with respect to the next line you want to plow or seed or whatever it is. So when we are done here, I will go and get a seeder. Alright, so this is one of those cases. Oh, sorry. As you can see, now I have a seeder and I have this JCB tractor here, and I've initialized the course. And as you can see by the green and the red line, the tractor or guidance steering is a little bit lost compared to it. It seems to think that there should be initialized an offset between my tractor center and the center of my implement, but it's not needed here. So one of the things that you can do is to check this number is correct. 15 meters, that's correct. This number here, you just say reset to 0, and then you don't have an offset anymore. Then you align the course. So one of my arguments for using CoursePlay, one of my arguments for using guidance steering is that you don't double seat. So let's see if that is actually a thing. Let's turn around, see if I can avoid hitting anything. I could. So let's try to double seat right now. There we go. Now, my experience is that while it might be... Okay, my experience is that it will both seed and fertilize at the same time. Now, as you can see, the numbers are not going down that fast, because as far as I know, this is a seeder that both cultivates and seeds at the same time. So I think what will happen, that's just what I think, is that it will first seed, it will first cultivate what I had previously seeded, and it will then also seed it again, so I will sort of waste seeds. But nevertheless, I'm pretty sure that it will use fertilizer, whether it is fertilized or not. So let's test that out. But that is my basic argument for using guidance steering, is that I want to make sure that I optimize my work on the field and that I don't double seed. And this time we can avoid that tree in the middle. There we are. But there was something I drove into. Yeah. So in order to be sure that we take the exact same route, I'm going to go all the way back and start all over. I'll meet you there. Alright, so here we are. The moment of truth. Look at those numbers and try to remember them. 1438 and 1990. Let's go. Alright, so I can see it's pretty obvious that it actually won't reseed, but it will refertilize, and I'm pretty sure that you won't get anything from that fertilization. So I think that the point still stands that if you're using a seeder that can both seed and fertilize at the same time, you're better off using something like guidance steering, because then you can avoid refertilizing your entire field or part of your field, because you could just as easily have turned around and taken another part of it. Let's just stop here. Let's pack it together. Now obviously this field that we have here, field 66, isn't really that big. So you could probably plow it, seed it, fertilize and all that just by yourself by taking one instrument or one implement at a time and doing it just like we have always done in Farming Simulator. But as you can see here in the map, there are some fields that are pretty big, something like 42 for example. Or 108 over here. But even just 81 here is a pretty big field. So if you want to get anywhere, let me just show you where we are. This field here is quite big. It's a really huge field. But it takes a lot of time to fertilize it and plow it, even harvest it and all that. So one way you can sort of optimize your workflow wrong button, is to hire a helping hand. Now, Farming Simulator 19 has its own set of helpers. Well, it's just a script, right, or a program, but nevertheless, let's just treat it as they are a set of helpers. But these helpers, they have some issues. If the field is not entirely square, they usually will have some problems dealing with that field, dealing with how to plow it or how to seed it or how to harvest it. Something like this field Let me just see. 75 here. Sorry, wrong field. But I guess the field that we are standing in front of here, 67, goes just as well. Enter here CoursePlay. So what is CoursePlay? CoursePlay is, from my point of view, sort of like an advanced or extended helper. It's basically the same mechanism. You hire someone virtual to help you do some work on the field, but whereas the Giants helper has its completely own mind on where to go, when to go, and how to go, you get to decide a lot more using CoursePlay. Now, CoursePlay, I would like to add, is not flawless, especially if you think about that it is a beta version, a version in development at the moment. So why use CoursePlay? Well, CoursePlay has some very interesting features. I'll start by showing you one of the more simpler ones, the one that I use mostly. You can recall the menu by pressing Ctrl-Delete, or you can sometimes also use the right mouse key like this. Then you have some menus in here. You have some different options that you can use. For now, these are grayed out. That means that the vehicle that you have now with that instrument on, or that implement, can only do one of these. There are two ways, in my opinion, that you can use CoursePlay. I know there are lots of ways that you can utilize CoursePlay to do various stuff, but I think that there are only two ways you can use CoursePlay. You can record a course by yourself. So that means that, for instance, if you want a harvester or a tractor or a semi-truck to move some stuff from point A to point B, or go to a silo, for instance, empty the content into a trailer or tipper, drive that to a selling point and sell it, and then do that the number of times you find to be reasonable. That is one of the ways you can use CoursePlay. That is, in my opinion, the most time-consuming way. It's not the hardest, because you just have to know where you're going, and then CoursePlay will take care of the rest. But you will need to know that your trailer can take the correct the content that you want it to take, because otherwise CoursePlay will just drive around and do nothing. The other way you can use CoursePlay, which is the way that I use it the most. And you can see I've already saved some courses in here, but you go into, let me see if I can remember it. You go into this, for instance, fieldwork. And then you can go to set course. And you can set a lot of different things, turn on field and all that. You can tool offset, you can set many of the basic stuff that you could also set in guidance steering mod. You can also set here. You can also choose to say calculate edge of field. You can't do that right now because you don't have any to do, but you go into advanced course generator settings. And then you can look for a field. So field 62, I have decided that that's the one here. It's really big, but we want 75. Then you can say you want the starting location. That can be southwest, northwest, northeast, southeast. You can select a position on the map. Suppose it's... I really haven't tried that. You can say current vehicle position. So, yeah. No, I think there is... Yeah. There is a little dot. So you can simply tell it to where it should start. I want to start, let's just say, here. Or here, somewhere like that. Starting direction, you can say longest edge, you can say manual. You can choose different directions. I just want it to go along the longest edge, which will most likely be this one here. Bypass islands, let's just say simple. Skip rows, no. Multiple tools, no. Field center, up and down. I don't want to do that. Let me see, skip rows, no. Headland, it's very important. You can set headland. So I wanted to do 2 headland passes. Just do them clockwise. Start working on headland passes, yes. Headland corners, I find round turn radius to be the best one. You can get a little better use of your fields by setting it to smooth, but I tend to end up with having islands in the middle of the row that it hasn't taken care of. So that's why I set it to turn radius, round turn radius. I don't mess with this. Working with, you can just press here and it says the working with. I think it should be 8 meters, but I'm not sure. When you have all this set, you say generate field course. And depending on what you have done and how much stuff you have, how big of a computer and sort of all these things you have, it should be ready to go now. Now, you can say, all right, this is not exactly what I wanted. I probably want 4 headland passes instead. Then you just change it and say generate field. And there you have it. Now you have 4 headland passes. So let's try to get it running, shall we? Oh, it was the right field, sorry. Almost. And now you can see you have this little thingy over here. That's where you want the tractor to start. So try to get it as close as you can to that. It wanted me to go in like that. That's okay. Usually there should be a finder down here, but maybe they've pulled that out. Alright, so now we're here. You have an option to say drive course. You can just press that and then you're going. You can define where it should start the course. First waypoint might be a good idea to set that now. If you say stop at last point or next trigger, you might end up, if it finds any trigger along the route, that it will stop there. Course generation, that is where we just came from. Return to first point means that when it has finished all of the work here, it will return to this point here. There is of course also a keyboard command that you can use, and that's Control 7. So you can close this and press Control 7. And there you have it. Just like the ordinary helper, except that this helper here, you get to decide where he goes, how he does it, and how much. And furthermore, more importantly, as far as I know, they are much better equipped dealing with these uneven or non-uniform courses, the fields, that's the one that are not square, with strange corners and all that. You can also, there was a third option, you can see there was smooth, there was turn, and then there was round, which is the turn radius. Turn means that if you have a field that is completely square, you can make the tractor do what you probably wanted to do when you make a headland row. You would go all the way to the edge, back up, drive in, back up, and then take it. So you get every part of that little corner. You get that plowed, or in this case we are plowing it, but seeded or whatever it is. I have found for now, and I can't promise that that will be changed at any point, that CoursePlay tends to get a little lost when they're dealing with articulated tractors, like for instance a big bot here. When they have to back up the plow, back it around, they tend to get it to swirl from side to side. So I tend not to use that option. But if you have small fields and you want to use CoursePlay, then it's certainly an option, because the advantage is that I can get out of it right now and see him work. If this were a normal plow, I could take a tractor right now and follow him around doing cultivating, for instance, or perhaps even seeding. So as you can see here, he will miss stuff here in the corner because I want him to turn around. But if I have set him to smooth, he would get much closer to the corner here, so sort of like this. But the next time he comes around, he will do the exact same thing, and for some reason I really can't understand, they tend to use part of this side here. Usually when you set it to round turn radius, they will do the exact same thing in the same corner, and so they usually don't miss stuff in here, but you will miss a little more of the field here. I don't think that on really huge fields that really tend to matter. So let's see how he does it on this little strange part down here, the uneven part of the field. Our little helper here, I'm not sure whether it is in him or her. Let's check it out. He's a pretty good runner, this guy here. It seems to be a him. So my usual workflow is that on big maps like this one here with huge fields, I almost always use CoursePlay. Particularly when I am harvesting, I find it to be so much easier to set up a semi-truck with a tipper that I can make go from one end of the field down to my silo and empty the tipper into the silo. Then I set the tractor to, and he will miss his stuff again because he's doing turning. He's not doing sort of edge to edge or smooth or anything like that. Then I will set the harvester, put a CoursePlay helper in that, make it harvest 2 or 3 headland rows, and then I will follow the tractor around with the auger wagon. And sort of, instead of having to harvest part of the field, put that harvest into the auger wagon, drive that down to the semi-truck with the tipper, and then when the tipper is full, I will have to abandon all that and then take the semi-truck and drive it down to the silo. Now, for relatively small maps, that of course isn't really a problem. You can just do it because it doesn't take that much time. Some of the fields, if you have a relatively big harvester, you can probably take half a field in one turn, one row, and then it's not really a big issue if you have to do all these steps by yourself. But with big fields like this, it could easily, if you want to record it, it could easily take up to, I don't know, 8 hours perhaps, and that's a lot of episodes in order to do that. So, and also I find it to be more realistic that on a farm with fields this size here, you don't do all these things by yourself unless you're a masochist. You do all of these things with helpers. You hire persons to help you do all of these things on the fields because they are so huge. And this is the basic usage of CoursePlay. And as you can see, sometimes in worst case scenarios, you have to sort of fiddle a little bit around with the settings in the CoursePlay settings, the menu, in order to get a course that you can actually use for something. Sometimes the CoursePlay course tends to get a little lost, and that's just the way it is. But usually, like this, it tends to work just fine. And also, of course, in when they are also revising the code and improving it and dealing with all these bugs, the CoursePlay helper will be a better helper, of course. That is. Now you can see he will change the track and take the new route. Like that. And so basically, the CoursePlay helper does the exact same thing as the normal Giants helper would do. You just get more control over what he does. So let me show you the other way you can use CoursePlay. Let's see if I have a semi-truck somewhere here that we can use. I should have a semi. There it is. So let me see if I can find a tip or anything like that. So there is one little problem with CoursePlay and tippers. This tipper here, CoursePlay simply cannot figure out how to use the two compartments. And that's simply, I think they still aren't able to do it, but that's simply just a bug with it. Let me see if I have another tipper somewhere we can use. Otherwise, I'm just going to use one of the tractors. It's not a real issue. No, that's not a tipper. It's a loader wagon. Let's take the little JCB with the little tipper over here. If there's nothing in it. I don't think there should be. No. Alright, so let's let's just turn this off. See what do we have in here. Let's just take some weed. There's some left. Okay. Otherwise it wouldn't work. So now we have some wheat. Let's just find the closest selling point for wheat that we have. This one will be the most easy one to reach. So, with that in mind, let me just make the map big. And then we open CoursePlay again. So I will take grain transport, load at start. That. And say, start course recording. And let's go. Now the thing when you do this run here is that CoursePlay is going to mimic exactly what you do. So if you drive into a building, CoursePlay will drive into a building. You set the route. You can make CoursePlay decide for itself what the velocity should be. Usually it wants to use the velocity that you have chosen, but you can set it yourself manually if you want to. Now CoursePlay will on itself, as you can see, detect tipping points. So it should detect when it goes under the tipper, under the sorry, I just lost track of it. That was not so good driven, but nevertheless. The silo empty point, but it will also detect when you go over a regular tipping point, i.e. a selling point. So even though this map is big, fortunately the JCB is pretty fast, so otherwise it would be pretty tedious to drive all this way around. In my opinion, CoursePlay is a great mod. It really, in my opinion, takes the best of the Giant's helper and then just makes it better. That's it. Now, just to show you exactly how this works, I won't empty the tipper here. I will simply just drive slowly over the tipping point. So, if I'm not mistaken, we should go this way. Oh! Oh! That might screw things up a little bit. Let's see. I certainly hope that there's an opening over here. Otherwise we just have to go all the way around. Oh well, we'll just go all the way into the tree. Then you'll also get to see what CoursePlay will do when it tends to get a little confused. Because me going into that car should be pretty confusing for it. So we need to get in here instead. There we go. I'm pretty sure that realistically you will want to go over here. Let's do that. And then you'll simply just drive. Let's just take this one. Go up. Quietly in through. Like that. And then the idea is simply just to take the entire route all the way back to the farm. And because that is really not that exciting, I will see you back there. So, now we are almost getting back to the starting point. So I'll just go all the way around here. Nice and easy. And as you can see, you have the starting point over here. So I'm going to set the stop point here. We're going to say stop. And now we need to decide some things because we have to go in. So we wanted to load wheat. We could also select barley if that was, but now it's wheat. We want it refilled until 100%. That's good. Now we're going to see how CoursePlay, just remove that. CoursePlay is going to deal with that little point where I hit the car. So let's see. Start. And now it should drive up to the spout here and then just continue because it's already filled. And as you can see, it will do pretty much, well, it will do exactly what I did. Hopefully a little bit better, but we're going to see that. It might be that it gets completely lost on the part of the route where I hit that car because I'm going to move around a lot. But as you can see here, we have an option down here, that says number of runs to perform. So we could say, well, I want it to run 2 runs. Then it's only going to run 2 times, and then it's going to stop. So for instance, if you had a lot of wheat and you had some barley and you had different kind of commodities that you wanted to sell at the same place, you could actually say, well, I'm only going to take 2 runs. So for instance, this is a 21,000 liter tipper. So that means you'd be selling 42,000 liters of wheat. Then you could possibly be selling 42,000 liters of barley, and so on and so forth. You can set it to unlimited. Then it will simply continue going until there's nothing left to sell. But let's put some music on and follow this little tractor on its route. As you can see, it says it's in traffic. So let me just help it out. The traffic here is really insane. Now you can go in here, I think it is somewhere here, and get the middle route. So you can see this part here, it's obviously a little bit confused. Still going strong. So obviously I did this, let me just do something here. Let me see. Let's turn traffic off just to help it out a little bit. But obviously you would want to set your route so that you avoid driving into cars and all that. Usually they tend to be pretty good at not driving into cars, but not always. And also the traffic tends to be really good at stopping when you have one of your trucks or tractors or whatever it is coming out on the street, but not here. They just pummel right into you. Alright, so let's check to see whether he can figure out how to unload the content of the tipper and let us earn a little bit of money that we definitely won't be able to see. And so now we are of course following this tractor around just so I can show you what it is doing. But the idea of this is to free your hands. So you could set sort of route and then let it go for a number of times, and then you would be told that now it has sold all there is to sell, or it has run the numbers of runs that you have set. And then that's it. It will tell you down in the corner that helper something 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 has finished doing his job. Maybe next time I shouldn't have it tip to the outside, to the side. And there we go. Now this tractor should drive all the way back to the farm, pick up a new load, and then do the exact same thing. And that is, my opinion, one of the beauties of CoursePlay, is that you can set sort of route here. Now obviously the reason why I said that these routes here tend to be more time consuming than just doing the field work like I showed at the beginning, is that you have to drive this route at least once. You can't make CoursePlay invent a route for you. It can't figure out the shortest route from point A to point B using roads or anything like that. You need to show CoursePlay where it can drive, and then it will drive it for you as many times as you want it. Now again, this is something that I would only use when I'm dealing with big fields like here on Midwest Horizon or something like that. I would probably not use CoursePlay on Ravenport or even the German map. I'm not sure why that name seems to miss me all the time. I can't find it, but it's the German map and the German Giants map I'm talking about. There I would probably not use CoursePlay because there wouldn't be a need for it. And as you can probably see, the other helper is doing his job right now. Let's go visit him. See? And as you can see around the corners, he's not leaving islands around with unplowed areas. That means it will mean that you probably will lose some of your field that you can't use, that won't be plowed, won't be seeded or anything like that. But on big fields like this, it won't really make a difference. Not at all. One of the real beauties here with CoursePlay is that it can figure out itself how big the fields are. It will calculate from start the edge of the fields, but not only that, If you make a field yourself, for instance, if you make a field where you expand it by taking down some edges or combining 2 or 3 fields or anything like that, you can just ask CoursePlay to recalculate the edges for the field and then save them, and voila, you will have your brand new own field that you have set the edges for yourself. So let's go back to the tractor and see how it's doing. Now on tight corners like this, it might get in trouble. It might leave little marks around. But usually, in my experience, they tend to get it pretty okay. So let's see how he's doing. There he was. Oh, he just got a little bit of weed. I'm not sure why he didn't get that much, but he did get some. Sometimes if you drive too fast or the stop point is set wrong or anything like that, CoursePlay can get confused at some times. It might also be that there wasn't more weed left. But I seem to recall that there were enough for 2 rounds, but yeah. That is something that you have to tinker with yourself in order to be sure that it gets it all. But yeah. So, in my opinion, this is all I want to tell you about CoursePlay. If you have questions, or if you feel that I have left out crucial parts, then I would love to hear from you, and you can tell me about it. There are some stuff in CoursePlay that I haven't mentioned here that I usually don't use or don't tinker with, but let me just show you. Dealing with routes like this, you can set the turn speed, the field speed, and the reverse speed. I assume that it is apparent what it makes, right? What it means. So you can set the street speed. It's automatic from course, max 73 kilometers per hour, and the speed is from recording. You can change that. So for instance, you can say that the maximum speed should be 45 kilometers. Then the tractor, no matter how fast you have been driving around on that map, will not go faster than 45 kilometers. I usually let it, but it's up to you how you want to set it. There we go. In here you can set the route markers. You can choose to not show anything. You can show special markers, crossing points. You can turn it all off. You can set it all on. Sorry. I thought you could. You can only set start and end, but see, he gets a little confused about what I did here. You can show the middle points. You can show it all. Map icon, you can show name and course. You can deactivate it. You can show name only. And you have some advanced setting that you can return to first point. Use AI turn maneuvers. I haven't really tinkered with that. Use pathfinding in turns. Yeah. There are some things that you can do when to raise implements, when to lower implements. You can do all kind of different stuff in here. Load courses on startup, scan fields automatically. All kinds of different things. You can set the CoursePlay worker wages if you want them only to get half click to switch. You can do all kinds of different stuff in here. When you are... See, he missed a little part there. When you are in a field like this, there are also some stuff you can do. You can set the turn circle. That obviously that defines how wide the turning circle for the big bot with that implement on should be. You can set the working width, so I've did 7.8 meters. You can set a vehicle convoy, it's deactivated. So the maximum distance, that means that you can make several CoursePlay helpers follow each other around. And you can set a refill, so you can make a point here that when he is empty for either fuel or anything, seed or anything like that, you combine two courses, not two fields. You combine two courses that is, one of them is a fill point, just like the course I recorded here first. So what you do is that you simply go to a point near the field, then you drive down to your fill point, whether that will be those little crates or pallets, or whether it's a silo or whatever it is. Then you fill up your tool, because you can just as well do it while you're there, and then you drive back to a certain point on the field. What you need to note is that these points that you set for going down and filling and refilling and all that, they have to be clearly accessible from all parts of the field. For let's say, for instance, that he is seeding right now. When his seeder is empty, he will look for the first point that you made and then go straight ahead towards it. So if you have a lake or a pole or anything like that in the middle of that field, he will drive into it if it is in his way. He will not go around it. He'll just go straight into it. So you need to make sure that the points that you set are readily accessible from all sides. Then you take the course that you have here. For instance, you create this course just like we did. Then you can go in here, and now I can't do it, but down here there should be a let me just try to stop him. You can see here, temporary course. Here you can say append course at end, but you should also be able to, there, load course or merge into loaded course. So for instance, if one of these were your loading course, then you would make this course just like we did, and then load it into this course here by pressing here. So you have sort of two courses in at once. It's if you want me to make another video to show you how to merge courses in CoursePlay, I will certainly do that. But in my opinion, it isn't really that complicated. You just make the course just like I showed you here. You fill up, and then when you have made that course, you go in here and you say press save. You give it a name, call it test. Then you have test here, and then you merge whatever course you have. Then you merge test. Now this is this course here, so it's just for demonstration. Then you merge this course into the one you have. So I hope that makes perfect sense, but if you want me to show you explicitly, then I will certainly do it in another video. Let's just get him started again. Oh, now he got confused. Poor fella. Oh no, I know why. Stop. I know why he did this. I set it to first waypoint. Let's just say next closest waypoint. And try. There we go. So I hope that this video here has been informative for you. I hope that you have learned now how you can use CoursePlay and guidance steering to make your life in Farming Simulator that much easier. At least in my opinion it is. So, just to reiterate, guidance steering is a mod that you can use in order to make sure that you don't overuse your tools, that you go right to the edge, that you can align it, and that you can make sure that you can steer in a straight line. You don't need to use the markers or anything like that. You can decide in a more easy way how to do it. CoursePlay is a way to control more elegantly how your helper should behave in certain circumstances, how he should drive, which course he should take, how many headland rows, you name it. You can set a lot of different things. So, just like always, if you like this video, if you like what I do, then give it a thumbs up. And if you want to know when I put out something new, when I make a new video, then subscribe to my channel. And you should of course also come and visit me at Twitch or at YouTube Live. I will co-stream, so I'll go to both streams at the same time. I hope that you have enjoyed yourself, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.